Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of the MMA Rundown here on ABC 23. I'm Drew Shannon alongside Albert Cameron. I'm sorry, you were going to say your name.
I was going to say Albert Cameron, but I think you did it much better than I did.
Thanks, Albert. This week, another great episode. We got a lot of things lined up.
We got news. We got round 2 of the inaugural MMA tournament. We got more emails from you guys, which is awesome, and we're going to have an interview with the real deal, Corey Hill.
That's right, at the weigh-ins from Complete Devastation MMA 5 the night before the event, and you won't want to miss that. The real deal, Corey Hill, just an amazing individual.
Absolutely.
And had quite a bit to say. You won't want to miss it. As we return to the MMA Rundown on ABC 23, stick around. It's go time.
Welcome back to the MMA Rundown. We're going to get into the news and notes. Drew, get it started.
Let's get right into it. Blackman MMA fighter Daryl Horcher scoring a landslide upset against M1 veteran George Shepard via KO to win at Complete Devastation MMA and the Lightweight Championship. Unbelievable fight ending in a surprising fashion.
The words flash knockout get thrown out a lot. Guys who get caught with an unlucky hook or a straight jab will end up saying, oh, I was out, but it was a flash knockout. When you use the flash knockout to describe this fight, it means a knockout that came straight out of left field. No one's seen it coming.
We never saw it coming. Believe me, it was just from out of nowhere. Shepard had to have been ahead on points.
Shepard came into the fight 13-6-0, so he was the heavy veteran over anybody who fought on that card. Shepard himself, an M1 veteran. I had him winning. I was almost ready to bet my 401k on George Shepard winning that fight. Daryl Horcher is no slouch, though. He's 4-0-0, fighting out of Blackman MMA, and those guys are tough. Blackman MMA was the only team to score a clean sweep at CDMMA 5. But it really looked like Horcher was sent into that cage against Shepard to really get his chops, to learn what it was like to lose, and Horcher was having none of it. George Shepard got hit very, very hard, and after the fight, wasn't allowed to stand up under doctor's orders. After the doctors checked him out, he had no idea where he was. Luckily, George Shepard was okay. We checked on him, made sure he was all right, but it was a very, very scary situation to be in.
Albert, I was over at the went from the announcer's table over to the official in charge near where George Shepard was, and he was out. He was completely out. That shot knocked him for a loop. He was he was on Dream Street, as they say. Did not know where he was. He wanted to leave the cage. They told him to stay down. He didn't make it to the center of the cage for the official announcement. That's the kind of shape he was in after that shot. Unbelievable.
The truly great part about that fight was Horcher was such an underdog, and he scored such a big knockout that when anyone ever talks about the fight, they neglect to mention that Horcher won a title out of that fight.
He did.
They're so surprised that he knocked George Shepard out that they forget to mention, hey, he is now a title holder for Complete Devastation.
If I recall correctly, I think I even forgot to announce that until the last minute, and I realized, wait, he won a title.
He actually says to you, I got the belt. And so, I mean, what an excellent fight that was. I really hope that we see Shepard versus Horcher too. I really wouldn't mind seeing it in my backyard to be convenient, but I'm sure the fight's coming.
I'm sure it is. XFC CEO John Priso says we'll be #1 in 5 years. That's a bold statement.
Very bold. When you consider the landscape of national MMA, obviously UFC is #1.
Right.
Close second is either Strikeforce or Bellator. I have a hard time ranking Strikeforce, being that they are a Zupa LLC owned company, the same company who owns the UFC, owns Strikeforce and UFC.
Correct.
Bellator is a close number second. They're on MTV2. They're said they're going to start going on to Spike TV now that the UFC is leaving. King Mo Lawal, signed with Strikeforce. He's actually going to be doing some work with TNA Impact Wrestling.
What is it with the MMA guys jumping over to pro wrestling lately?
In one of these segments, we're going to go over how closely related MMA and professional wrestling really are. But it's not so much that they can't translate very easily.
Right.
For John Priso to say that the best organization in Florida is going to be the number one or number two company in the nation in 2 years, I think it's kind of bold. But when it comes to business, and especially the fight business, you don't get anywhere without making bold statements like that and really believing in your product.
All right, Pride FC, IFL, and UFC vet Renzo Gracie looking to get back into competition. He's eyeing Brazil as his return. What do you know about this?
Not a whole lot. Not as much as I'd like to know. I pride myself on knowing these kind of things. Renzo Gracie lost his last UFC fight and hasn't been back since. Renzo Gracie himself is a self-proclaimed coach. He prefers coaching actually over fighting. UFC is breaking into Brazil again. UFC had two fights in Brazil, Ultimate Brazil and Ultimate Brazil 2. It seems like it'd be a good time for Gracie to come back to the UFC when they're getting back into Brazil, but no representative from the UFC has said that Renzo Gracie is coming back. And Renzo Gracie's camp themselves have not said that the UFC is involved. It just seems like really convenient timing.
All right, here's a rumor. Former UFC heavyweight champion Tim Sylvia called up to fight Daniel Cormier in Strikeforce. What do you know about this?
That's a fight I want to see. I mean, as a fight fan, I want to see that. You and I know Tim the Maniac Silva as the guy who was the former UFC champion. Frank Mir broke his arm in a very convincing way, and then really hasn't done anything after his fight deal with Adrenaline MMA fell through.
I don't know too many people that get their arm broken in an unconvincing way, so.
You've never watched Tosh.0?
Moving on.
Daniel Cormier he beat Josh Barnett in the Strikeforce heavyweight Grand Prix. So Daniel Cormier has some really big heavyweight credibility coming his way. Tim Sylvia needs to come back in a big way, and this will probably be a good opportunity to do so. The word's going around, you know how camps talk. We can hope the Strikeforce will announce the card soon. I wouldn't mind seeing Tim Sylvia come back.
All right, that's a look at our news for this week. Coming up, round number 2 in our inaugural MMA Legends Tournament. Stick around, you're watching the MMA Rundown on ABC 23.
Time for round 2.
Round 2 of our inaugural MMA Rundown Legends Tournament, and we talked about the competitors last week that we had selected. We started off with 8. We're down to 4. To
give you guys a recap of what happened last week, we picked Randy Couture over Boss Rudin. We picked Dan the Beast Severn over Mirko Krokop Filipovic. We picked Rickson Gracie over Mark the Smashing Machine Kerr, and we picked the last Emperor Fedor Emelianenko over Kazushi Sakuraba. So the bracket leaves us now with Randy Couture versus Dan Severn.
All right, who you take? Randy Couture versus Dan the Beast Severn.
I love Dan Severn, mainly because he didn't eat me when I asked him about the team. Class act. Randy Couture and Dan Severn are about on par with their wrestling skills. Mm-hmm. What Couture has is more striking skill, whereas Severn's more of a submission expert than Randy Couture. However, Randy Couture is probably 205, 245 pounds of tightly compacted, pure aggression and win. Randy Couture's got it in him. I am inclined to give Randy Couture the decision over Dan the Beast Severn.
Wow. But
not with Couture leaving with serious injuries.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, and who do we have in the next? Who is it? Who's our?
We got Rickson Gracie versus Fedor Emelianenko.
Okay, who are you going to take in that?
This is a fight. And goes to all my friends on SureDog.com. I know who you are. We've been talking about this fight on the internet since probably 2005 or better. Who would win between Rickson Gracie, who has essentially never been beat, but his father Helio has gone and said that part of the 401 record that Rickson has is part of sparring partners and training partners he's been working with. So it's probably not 400, but still impressive that he's never been beat in professional competition versus Fedor Emelianenko.
So who do you
Emelianenko by split decision.
Emelianenko.
I think that Gracie will get him down. Emelianenko will have an answer for everything. I think Rickson Gracie's mat work is going to be enough to stave off the Emelianenko strikes, but I think he'll be overconfident in Emelianenko's own ground ability and it'll end up being a split decision in Emelianenko's favor.
All right, and in the finals, we're not going to give you the finals just yet. Tune in next week when you hear Albert's predictions for the final round in our Legends tournament.
Randy the Natural Couture versus Fedor, the last Emperor Emelianenko. What I do want you to do, though, I want you to shoot us an email at host@themmaRundown.com. Tell Albert and Drew who you think would win, and we'll weigh in on it. But you'll have to tune in next week to see who you pick.
Tell us why you think your fighter would win, whoever you choose. And if you have any ideas for another tournament, a list of fighters that you would like to see go one-on-one, let us know. Hosts@MMARundown.com.
Coming up next, we got emails from the fans. We're going to get into another interview, but you don't go away. We're going to have some words from the sponsors.
Stick around. It's the MMA Rundown on ABC 23. It's the MMA Rundown on ABC 23, and now it's time for the MMA Rundown Spotlight Fight.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this bout is for the complete devastation featherweight championship. Scheduled for 3 rounds. Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner, the challenger. With a record of 3-0-0, standing at 5'11" for Fusion Mixed Martial Arts, the challenger, Robert Malloy! His opponent, fighting out of the blue corner, with a record of 4-1-0, standing at 5'10", fighting for Team Dignan Boomba, the complete devastation featherweight champion,
Push back against the cage. Let him rest. Ladies and gentlemen, your winner at 137 in round 1 by knockout,
You're watching the MMA Rundown on ABC 23. I'm Drew Shannon.
I'm Albert Cameron.
And right now we got to dip into the email bag.
I love getting emails from fans.
Can you dip into the email bag? You have to go onto the computer.
It's all digital now.
It's digital.
I mean, I wouldn't mind getting like the big burlap sack of letters from you guys.
It'd be like Miracle on 34th Street. Just pile them up on here and...
Drew will read them all because I got better stuff to do.
I'll tell you, there is a Santa Claus. Let's go to our email this week from Bill in Johnstown. He says, Drew and Albert, when do you think MMA will get a movie like Rocky? Who should star in it, and whose life should the movie be based on? That is a very good question.
Especially because people have been trying to put out MMA movies and they've just been lacking. Never Back Down, which was pretty much the OC with boxing gloves, it was bad. And the bad thing about Never Back Down was the IFL tried so hard to get behind it right before they folded, and there was high hopes for the movie, but it just didn't happen. Red Belt wasn't bad, except for they lost the legitimacy right before she would tell. Right before the main character got to the fight, just some things that didn't agree with consistency.
Don't ruin it for them out there in case they haven't seen it.
I'm doing them a favor.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, when do you think we're going to get one? I mean, I think down the road there should be, just because of the popularity of the sport.
You gotta figure it took boxing almost 150 years to get a good movie like Rocky.
And it wasn't until at least a few years ago that we got a decent portrayal of professional wrestling with the wrestler, Mickey Rourke.
I think we're probably maybe 5 to 8 years out.
I would even give it that. I'd give it at least maybe 1 to 2.
Fair enough.
Just given the popularity of the sport.
Oh, absolutely. If I were me, if Hollywood was contacting Albert Cameron to produce,
if you were you are you.
If it were me.
If it were you.
If it were me, and Hollywood's asking Albert Cameron to produce an MMA movie, I would have to base it on the life of Ken, the world's most dangerous man, Shamrock.
You do Ken Shamrock?
I would do Ken Shamrock. I read a lot of interviews with him. He had it really tough growing up, being young, living on the streets, living in a car, scrapping with other homeless boys, getting adopted into the Bob Shamrock Ranch, finding himself in his stride through sports, ultimately going over to Japan and then coming over and being one of the biggest names in American mixed martial arts. I would do the movie on Ken, the world's most dangerous man, Shamrock. Now, who would I get to play him? I think that's more your territory. I've identified who I want the movie to be about.
Wow. Who could you get to play Ken Shamrock? That's difficult. I don't know who in Hollywood at this time would you get to play Ken Shamrock?
I mean, Al Pacino looks like him. I just don't think he has the figure.
I don't think, no.
It'd probably end up being some unknown actor, but...
It'd be Randy Couture. I don't know. You get Ken Shamrock to play Ken Shamrock. That's who you get to play, because nobody else can act like Ken Shamrock.
Ken Shamrock also has sons who train in MMA.
There you go.
So it wouldn't surprise me if it would be one of them. But to answer your question, Bill, Drew says 1 to 2. I'm saying more like 5 to 8. But I think the more compelling story in MMA would be the world's most dangerous man, Ken Shamrock.
All right, and if it comes out in 1 to 2, you're buying the tickets when we go to see it. And if it comes out in 7 to 8,
I'll do you one better.
I'll buy the popcorn.
I'll do you one better. If it comes out to 1 to 2, not only will I buy your ticket, I will buy 2 tickets for the viewers at home, and they can come watch the movie with us, either in Altoona or State College.
Nice. You have to be incredibly hot babes, though. I'm kidding. Could be anybody. Thanks for your question, Bill. And if you'd like to send your questions or comments to us here at the MMA Rundown, it's simple. Just email us, hosts@themmarundown.com. That's hosts@themmarundown.com. And the best emails will get... I had to look at the sheet there for a second. Just cheating. The best emails will get put on TV.
Coming up, we got an interview with Corey the Real Deal Hill. And he's going to talk to us about not only breaking his leg, but the comeback trail, trying to get to the big stage. And it was a great interview to be had. I'm positive you guys are going to love it.
I can't wait for it. You're watching the MMA Rundown on ABC 23. We'll be back in just a few.
Have you ever feared this happening? Or been annoyed when something like this has happened? One product can fix that. Secure Connect. Secure Connect keeps a retaining force against the plug, keeping it secured into the wall. You simply place each half of Secure Connect behind the plate, clip them around your cord, and push the yoke against the plug. That's it. You can use Secure Connect almost anywhere. Secure Connect provides the security you need with plugged-in electrical devices, and Secure Connect has earned the Good Housekeeping seal of quality. Every home in America needs Secure Connect. Order yours today.
Guys, welcome to the MMA Rundown. This is a huge day for me. We are live here with Ultimate Fighter alum and UFC veteran Corey Hill. Corey, what I think one of the biggest things on all of our minds are the broken leg, which is probably the worst injury in professional sports. One of the things that crossed my mind is how soon did it happen from your leg broken to you realize that something very serious had happened?
It was kind of like this. Right. No, it was instant. I had my mouthpiece in. I remember I was telling the ref, I do that leg kick. I remember it's one of those things, you don't know how bad you did something, but you know it's bad. Yeah. I remember saying, my leg. But it was absolute instant. Worst pain I've ever felt in my life.
Oh, absolutely. What was the first thought that went through your head once you realized the leg was broken? Like, did you go into survival mode? You're like, the thought of finishing the fight, did it cross your mind? Or?
Well, like I said, I knew something bad happened, but I just didn't know what. So I wanted to stay safe. I knew it was still a fight. This guy was still raining down punches on me. So it was like, you know what, tie him up. Let's try to mission control, damage control as best as possible until we can figure out what happened.
Outstanding. That was, I think your comeback trail is probably one of the worst injuries in professional sports, and you're coming back. He's making his comeback fight right here in Altoona, Pennsylvania for Complete Devastation Mixed Martial Arts 5. You know we're going to talk about the Ultimate Fighter.
Right.
We're going to talk about the Ultimate Fighter. Corey was a participant in the Ultimate Fighter Season 5. You were on Team Pulver.
Yes, sir.
Team Pulver. And I think one of the gutsiest moves on professional TV was you had gone to the tryout. You're like, I got 4 fights under my belt, and then it came out and you had 2 amateur fights.
Right.
Was there any danger of Corey not being able to compete or on the show, or how did that go down once it came out you only had 2 amateur fights?
No, it came out after the first fight with Rob Emerson.
Okay.
So it was like after that fight, I was in a war with him.
Yeah.
So it's like after that, I figured I could let the cat in the bag. I was like, you know what? I only had 2 amateur fights, so how worse could it get? Couldn't get any worse than this. This was all pre-injury, so
yeah. It was a great fight. Now, speaking of Rob Emerson, a lot of the guys were kind of rowdy in that house, but yet Corey maintained his nice positive demeanor. It kind of came out that Rob may have been involved in some things in the previous time that really affect the dynamic of the house. Was he still cool to deal with?
No, like I said, everybody was absolutely phenomenal. It was this entertainment reality show. So once you got the first couple of weeks of, mine's bigger than yours and blah, 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 it was cool. It was cool.
Corey, now you're fighting tomorrow night at welterweight. Mm-hmm. Now, before that, you had been fighting at lightweight.
Right.
Which do you prefer so far?
Absolutely welterweight. The last fight lightweight was Rob McCullough, WC World Champion.
Razor Rob.
Right, and we went 3 rounds. Banged him. We actually lost a close decision. We thought we won that fight.
Yeah.
It wasn't until after that fight. I think I actually fought him. He weighed almost 190. So it was like, you know what? I'm going up.
You're going up.
Much better weight, better cut. Overall, better for the body. So we're looking for good things at welterweight.
Well, before you got into mixed martial arts, you're a fairly decorated wrestler. What was the biggest challenge going from wrestler, a very, very good wrestler, to adding in the striking and the all-aroundness to?
Well, you have to evolve. So wrestling opened the doors for the boxing, some of the other mixed martial arts. So we actually use wrestling as a stepping stool to get better. But at the end of the day, wrestlers are tough. It's a pedigree, a work ethic that we live by. So at the end of the day, you want to evolve and you want to work on the boxing, kickboxing, and Muay Thai, but you can't forget what you come from, and that's wrestling.
Sure. Corey, at the end of the day, what do you want? How do you want Corey Hill's professional career to be defined? What shining moment do you want everyone to remember?
If you're not in this for a belt, a world title, I don't know why you're doing it, and that's why I'm in it for. So until we obtain that goal, I'm always chasing it.
That is outstanding. And you're looking to get back into the grand stage again soon. Again, this is my buddy Corey Hill. He's going to get back in. You're going to be fighting in the UFC now. You're still under contract with the UFC, but you're coming to fight here with us in Altoona, which is huge. Again, I'm a very, very big fan of your career. Do you still keep in touch with your Ultimate Fighter teammates? Or
it's funny because on the way down here, I had a phone call from Cole Miller. He's actually getting ready to fight Nam Pham.
Okay.
In lightweight. That's going to be a great fight.
Cole Miller and Nam Pham are both.
Right. No, so we all stay in contact. It's a brotherhood.
That is outstanding. That is just outstanding. Drew, do you have any questions for my buddy Corey?
I think you pretty much asked them all, Al.
I know.
Rapid fire.
Yeah.
I do have one question. If to the viewers out there that want to get interested in MMA, what is your advice to them? How does someone go from just watching a program like this to becoming the next Corey Hill or the next whomever they are?
You want to find your local MMA gym. You want to enroll and be prepared for a lot of hard work and dedication. But if I can do it, you can do it. It all starts with your MMA gym.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Corey Hill, right here on the MMA Rundown. He is fighting July 14th at the Blair County Convention Center. You cannot miss this.
He's rather tall, too.
It was a great interview, I told you.
Fantastic.
You were there.
And another episode. I was there. I was standing right there. I didn't have much to say, but I was there. And that is another episode in the books of the MMA Rundown. We'll be back next week with more news, more interviews, the finals in our inaugural MMA Rundown Legends Tournament, your emails, and so much more. I can't wait.
I can't wait either. One of the things I'll tell you before we leave about the Corey Hill interview, the Corey Hill we talked to at the weigh-ins was not the Corey Hill who showed up to fight.
No.
And out there. It was so night and day. The Corey Hill at the weigh-ins was nice. He was talking. He wasn't Star Trek because he was the guy on TV. I was the one gushing, not him. I see Corey Hill outside the Blair County Convention Center, and he was just in his zone. And I think it showed whenever he won. But tune in next week. We got more interviews, more the finals of the tournament, and I'm looking forward to seeing you then.
Most definitely. For Albert Cameron, I'm Drew Shannon. Thanks for watching the MMA Rundown on ABC 23, and we'll see you next week.